Here we are with the conclusion to Armageddon, the 5-part crossover event on The Flash Season 8, which of course now, after this conclusion of Armageddon, is now on a bit of a hiatus until I think March, which is when we're going to be getting new episodes again, but that's going to be getting into really the main storyline of Season 8, and this was kind of just the prologue, I guess you could say. But this is, of course, a story we've been following for the last couple weeks here with Armageddon. Again, 5-part crossover. This is Part 5, Armageddon Part 5. And I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of it, especially compared to other episodes. This episode was just really disappointing. It's like everything I thought and wanted it to be, it did the opposite, and the opposite was not a thing I was a big fan of. But yeah, so we're going to need to get into that, but of course, before we do, spoiler warning if you haven't seen the episode yet. Again, The Flash Season 8, Episode 5, aka Armageddon Part 5, and you can let me know all your own theories, thoughts, and opinions in the comments below. But let's get into this. So we start off the episode really nicely here, actually, where we have Barry reuniting with Joe after going like 3 episodes of him thinking that Joe was dead, or Joe actually being dead. But now the timeline's been fixed, and now Joe is alive, and he's reuniting with him. You know, I love the relationship, so I love this scene here. But then Damian Dark shows up, and he has been drawn back to 2021 for some reason. And he assumes that at some point the timeline is kind of going to reset and fix itself, and he's going to disappear, and his sacrifice will go into motion, and Nora will be alive. But meanwhile, we have Eobard Thawne following up after the kind of cliffhanger of last week's episode, where he is now in present day, he's wearing the new Reverse Flash suit, and he attacks CCPD, where then Mia Queen, the new Green Arrow, shows up. And they never really go too much into depth on like how she actually got there. You kind of just assume like she somehow had access to time travel and she just came back to 2021. And as soon as she sees Reverse Flash, she threatens him and says, "Where's William?" Now, William, of course, is her brother, William Queen, and that is one thing I really liked and enjoyed about seeing her return in this episode, is because, of course, the last time we saw her was in not the last time we saw her, but one of the last times we saw her was in the backdoor pilot for Green Arrow and the Canaries, which of course was the second to last episode of Arrow right before that series finale, where it was a whole episode taking place in the future, and that episode basically ended on a cliffhanger setting up that spin-off series, which obviously never came to light and got canceled, where William was kidnapped and disappeared. And now at this point in time we get an update on that. Mia is still looking for him. She has no idea what happened to him, and we never really get an answer as to what happened to him here, but at least we get hope that, like, you know, one day she'll find him and they'll get a happy ending. But I did like that they at least mentioned that and referenced that here, so that was cool. But she's just automatically asking Thawne, "Where's William?" And then the Flash shows up to come help, and this is where things get interesting. And when I say interesting, it's that's what I mean by not what I expected, and not in a good way, where Thawne asks Barry to save him. Because basically Thawne is dying because of what happened to the timeline, because Barry reset it and basically destroyed everything that Thawne created. Now time is also trying to reset him and basically kill him, and so basically his clock is ticking and he's about to die. So he asked Barry for his help, and we basically spend like a full 20 minutes here of Team Flash arguing about whether or not they should just let him die or save Thawne. Mia wants to kill Thawne. Again, she's looking for William, and you know, she is like super in a bad mood here. Caitlin wants to kill him. Despero returns and he's like, "Yeah, we need to kill him." And then even Iris and then Barry agrees, and then Chester and Allegra are the only two that are like, you know, maybe we shouldn't do this, until we have a very honestly probably the best part of the episode, where Joe has a talk with Iris and Barry, and he really reminds them of basically the whole theme of this show since the beginning. You always have a choice. And this was something that, again, like, it works and it fits with the theme of the show, but I feel like it's kind of stupid at this point, because, I mean, for them to automatically go like, alright, we need to just let him die, after this kind of been being a thing for literally all 8 seasons of the show, is you can't kill the villains, and like, doesn't matter how bad they are, you still need to save a life. It just feels kind of redundant at this point. But again, just that the acting from Jesse L. Martin here in this scene as Joe West was really nice. I really enjoyed seeing that, just like the emotion he put into that line of "you always have a choice." It was so good. I actually really enjoyed that. But Barry then comes up with an alternative of like, all right, if we can save him, but the only way we can do that is by just taking away his speed permanently. And this is another thing that was kind of confusing me, because like, all right, if that was an option in the first place, then why did you just take that? Why did you want to just automatically let him die? Because I mean, if he doesn't have his speed, then he can't really harm you anyway, so it really doesn't make a difference either way. But anyway, yeah, that's the plan they come up with. But Despero is not happy with that. He wants Thawne dead, so he takes control of Mia, and then we get a cool battle of Despero versus the Flash and Green Arrow versus Team Flash. Mia, of course, ends up breaking free, and this was another weird part, because Despero basically reveals that he was the warlord who destroyed his planet, and like he's really like the big main villain bad guy of this Armageddon crossover event, which is what I expected going into this. But after watching episodes of him being like seeing things from his perspective with his whole overarching plan here of literally just trying to save the world from Armageddon, it seemed like he was a good guy, to now all of a sudden just him being evil the whole time, and we're just now finding out about that. It just doesn't make sense at all and feels honestly like such a last minute thing. But it happened anyway. So he does end up being the main villain here, where he gets this final battle with Flash. And basically, the way they defeat him is so stupid as well, because, I'm so conflicted on this, because something I've always wanted to see on the show with the Flash is the gold boots, and that was something officially revealed and confirmed at DC Fandom this year, was that the Flash was getting his gold boots this season, and that's great, because that's really the main thing missing from this Flash's suit to make him as close to the comics as possible. So he just needs those gold boots. So he gets them in this episode, but the way it happens is just so weird, because again, they're trying to find a way to defeat Despero. So Team Flash decides they need some sort of delivery system of energy to dampen Despero's power, and then Chester whips out these gold boots that he made, and somehow that can do it. Like, I have no idea how these boots are able to deliver this energy dampener to Despero. It really didn't make sense at all. And honestly, the first time I watched this, I wasn't completely paying attention, so I was just super confused, because I thought Chester was just whipping out another one of his inventions, and I had no idea what it was. Then all of a sudden, the next scene, Bear's wearing the gold boots. So I was just super confused. I had to rewatch it a couple times, but I'm glad that he has the gold boots. And the showrunner Eric Wallace has always said that he wanted to do the gold boots, but he wanted there to be a reason for Barry to need the gold boots. And sure, this is a reason. It just isn't a good reason. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. But yeah, so that's kind of what happens here. Basically, the Flash defeats Despero with his boots, which again was weird. But this allows Barry to get back just in time to save Thawne by removing the negative speed force from him, removing his speed just as Black Lightning was about to do, or attempting to do, to Barry a couple episodes ago. And of course, Thawne is pretty mad about this, because Barry's like, I just saved your life. And he's like, no, you took my speed, you took my life. And yeah, it makes sense with the character, but like, where are you going to go with Thawne after this? Like, are they going to come up with some excuse again for him to regain his speed? Or is this literally just the end of Thawne, because now he's just in Argus? So, I don't know. Again, there was just a lot of things in this episode that were super confusing and like left open-ended, which could be a good thing. It just depends on how they handle them in the future. But at this point in time, it's just super confusing. But then we end off the episode with Team Flash celebrating with Mia, and then Damian Dark is somehow still alive, even though the timeline should have reset. So we get some interesting stuff with that, where then also Iris has a conversation with Mia, where she gives her some intel, and Mia basically decides she's going to go and ask Felicity for help in finding William. So we kind of get a happy-ish ending with that character. Not sure if we're ever going to see her return again, but at least we know that she's on a path to find her brother, and she's reuniting with her mother, so I guess that's a good thing. And then we do actually get a really nice ending for Damian Dark here, because Damian gives Joe the Time Stone, which I have no idea how that's going to come into play the rest of the season, but then all of a sudden he appears somewhere else. They don't really explain where it is. It's like almost like an afterlife type thing, and he is right there with his daughter, Nora Dark. So this was one of the big surprises of the episode that I actually did really enjoy, seeing the return of Courtney Ford, actually the wife of Brandon Routh, who played Ray Palmer, the Atom from the first part of Armageddon. She appears here as Nora Dark, so that was really cool to see, and basically it's the last interaction between those two. They get to officially say goodbye, and then all of a sudden Nora appears at the party with Team Flash, and then Joe said that he's going to tell her a story. So I assume it's going to be like he's telling her the story of like the sacrifice that Damian just made to save her life or something like that. But that's the end of the character. You got to assume she's going to reunite with Ray, and they're still going to be married and all that stuff. But yeah, then the day is saved. Team Flash won once again. Armageddon has been complete, but then we get our post-credit stinger cliffhanger to set up the second half of the Flash Season 8, where we have CCPD. There's a picture in a frame that says New Year's Eve 2014, and all of a sudden the timeline changes, and suddenly both Bart and Nora Allen appear in this photo. And then we get a little promo giving us a little sneak peek teaser of what's to come in March with new episodes. And I mean, it's cool that Bart and Nora are coming back, but just watching that promo, it doesn't really get me excited. Like, it doesn't, like, I want to know, like, who the villain is and stuff like that. Now, that'll get me excited, but for now, I really don't know much about it. I mean, sure, it's cool that we're getting the return of these characters, but I'm not exactly sure how they're going to come into play. Clearly, they're messing with the timeline, so we'll get to have some fun with that. But for now, guys, that was Armageddon. Again, probably the worst part, I think, out of the 5 parts. I really enjoyed last week's episode. Really, I enjoyed all of the episodes except for this one. But again, it did have its moments. I did really like the moments with Joe and Mia and Damian Dark's moments at the end of the episode. I really enjoyed those as well. But yeah, so a bit of a mixed bag tonight, but you can let me know your own thoughts and predictions and opinions and theories and all that stuff in the comments below. Where do you think things are going to go in the rest of Season 8? Let me know down below. And of course, as always, guys, thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video and hit the subscribe button so I can keep up to date on everything that goes on in the DC life.